Okay, so now it's gone live streamed on YouTube. I'd like to first welcome everybody. Vanchakalpa through this chat. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Devi Gauravani Pacharine, Nirvishesha Nivadi, Paschat Deshitari. Jai Shri Radha Kalachandji ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaur Bhakta Brinda ki Jai, Jai Purva Prabhu and Kamalini Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai, thank you.
All right. So this is a continuation of the recordings we're doing for Kalachandji's 50th anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the installation of Sri Radha Kalachandji by Srila Prabhupada. And we're doing this for posterity, so that hundreds of years from now, hopefully even thousands of years from now, people can look back and say, this is the beginnings of the Hare Krishna movement at different temples, different areas in the world. And obviously Dallas was one of the places that Srila Prabhupada himself personally installed the deities, and therefore is one of the temples people would love to know about. What happened, how did it happen, who were the devotees there at that time, and so that they can see you. That gives authenticity to the movement and makes the movement a real movement in the eyes of those who live hundreds of years from now and thousands of years now. Imagine if this had happened when Jesus Christ was on the planet, when Lord Jesus was on the planet, there'd be so much authenticity to his movement, because people would see that here are the disciples, here are the people who were there right at the beginning, and here's Lord Jesus himself, as we have of Srila Prabhupada. So thank you very much for agreeing to speak with us about your experiences in the early days of Radha Kalachandji's Leela in Dallas and around the world. Apurva Prabhu and Kamalini Prabhu, we're so very happy to have you over with us. And so before you start, I'm going to introduce you so that those who are seeing this in the future, and those who are seeing this now who may not know everything about you, at least have an introduction that you sent, Mother Kamalini Prabhu. So the introduction is, when Apurva Prabhu joined ISKCON in 1971, after visiting his brother, who was a devotee in the Brooklyn, New York temple on Henry Street, he immediately served in the kitchen, assisting the cooks and washing pots. He also went on Harinam Sankirtan and book distribution. Even after joining the Radha Damodar bus party, he was the cook on the bus. When the bus party more or less downsized, he served in the 55th Street Temple in Manhattan as a head cook. From there, after cooking in Puerto Rico, he was recruited many places to cook. After cooking Raj Bhoga offering for several years in New Dwarka, Los Angeles, he opened his own restaurant in San Francisco called Jagannath's Cart with his wife, Kamalini Prabhu. He was then asked to come to Devasadan, Detroit, to cook for Govinda's restaurant, which was about to open in the Fisher Mansion. After moving to the Boston Temple for 1 year, they relocated to Lansing, Michigan, to open a preaching center with a, quote, dining club, close quotes, in it. And then he was recruited to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to cook for a new Govinda's restaurant. This was favorable because their children could attend the Gurukula in Hillsborough. But they did move to Dallas, where he cooked for Kalachandji's restaurant. After moving back to Hillsborough, he was recruited to cook for Govinda's in the Denver temple, where he ended up filling in as the temple president for a few years. They stayed there for 5 years. Then again, he took over Govinda's restaurant in Greensboro, along with their daughter and her husband. Now he holds community dinners, at his home, and does some catering. Welcome, Apurva Prabhu, Mother Kamalini Prabhu. Please enlighten us.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
You're not on the camera.
Hare Krishna.
You can get in the camera. Yeah. Okay, so you want to answer some of the questions? So you've done a series of these videos on different aspects of the temple.
Yes,
Wow, interesting. I guess every temple should be doing this, huh?
yes, they should, especially by the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
Consider the first cycle in a religious movement of any temple,
Uh-huh.
These movements are studied in 50-year cycles. So this is Dallas Temple's first cycle. Now
Wow.
we're in our second time cycle this year, on this year.
Okay, go ahead.
Please tell us about your experiences here, what happened at the time when you came, and anything you'd like to speak about so that devotees in the future and personalities in the future would know about what your experience was at Dallas.
Yeah. So my experience, of course, was uh, a family atmosphere that was dedicated towards serving Guru and Krishna, Kalachandji, and also, of course, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj was very prominent. And we know from long time association in many different situations how Tamal Krishna Maharaj was very dedicated to excellent prasadam distribution. And it was considered a very amazing opportunity to take prasadam with him. He always served the devotees and his godbrothers very nicely. And what I also remember, I mentioned one time when we had lunch with him that I could sit down and listen to his Srimad Bhagavatam classes for eternity. I was so nurtured and nourished by hearing him speak that it gave me so much spiritual upliftment. And of course, we know that Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasha Prasada Nakatika Topi. By pleasing the spiritual master, Krishna is pleased, and without the grace of the spiritual master, no one can make any spiritual advancement. So from the onset, I was very dedicated and absorbed in following Srila Prabhupada's strict instructions regarding prasadam distribution. As a matter of fact, in 1986, I had started to develop a file and also the idea of creating a cookbook. And so I had on file all of Srila Prabhupada's letters and any instructions that he gave about prasadam distribution. So one of my most important contributions regarding the offerings to Sri Radha Kalachandji and the restaurant there was to, first of all, as Srila Prabhupada clearly stated in many of his letters regarding restaurant prasadam, he wanted the devotees to offer and all the prasadam directly to the deities. He wanted the guests to get direct mercy of prasadam that was offered directly to the deities. So because of the schedule, it seemed like quite a challenge, and it was for the first month or so that I was there. I was very much enlivened, of course, by many of the devotees there, especially Chaitanya Chandra, who was my fellow godbrother and very close friend on the Radha Damodar bus party. We were on the same bus with Brahma. And I remember Gopinath Acharya, Mishra Bhagavan, other devotees who were very close to me, and I found great shelter in their association. And so we went ahead and made the arrangements so that the offerings, so that the people who were coming to Kalachandji's would be getting Mahaprasadam offered directly to the deities. And this was a great accomplishment, I feel, that made a difference. And so what else?
Yeah, and because Tamal Krishnaraj said, well, if you do that, it has to be maintained. You know, it means that the offering has to be like an hour earlier than it usually was. So as we know in deity worship, he said, you know, once you start something, it has to go on. It can't just be temporary. So I heard that it is still going on now.
What else?
What were the challenges of cooking and working there?
Well, of course, it was pretty close quarters cooking in, it was somewhat of a small kitchen. But I remember some of the other cooks, especially I just recently saw her in Vrindavan, Bhakti Devi, and how she was such a humble servant of the servant, and a delight to cook with. And that was pretty much the mood of everyone, working together as a team to please Guru and Krishna. And whatever obstacles were in the way, we were able to surmount them and go forward. And I felt I made a significant contribution. One, there's a picture there of me cooking and making a puri and sour cream sabji. That was my signature sabji. It was steamed vegetables with sour cream and butter and spiced very nicely. And that was a very favorite prep. And of course, there were many preparations that I was involved in making. I can't remember many specifics, but I basically used many of the recipes from Kurma's cookbook, and also some that I had developed in my cooking career, going back to 1972 and 3 in Henry Street, when I was cooking under Mother Bhadra, who was instrumental in creating most all of the recipes in the first Higher Taste cookbook. She had an amazing flair of making everything taste extraordinarily delicious. So the proof is in the pudding. So one of the other points of information is that before the prasadam, after it was offered, of course, I would taste each preparation to make sure that it was acceptable, and it was presentable and delicious. These are some of the qualifications, not only that the prasadam tastes good, but it should look very enlivening and should look very colorful. You can actually understand that when you look at something, if it looks fresh and the colors are vibrant and the prasadam is very yes, colorful, then it becomes easier to digest. And that's in my future visits to Kalachandji's, I was very much enlivened by the increase of wonderful prasadam that was always first class and easy to digest.
Mhm.
And such a variety, a wonderful, beautiful variety of prasadam that you could relish. There was no dearth of variety. And so in any of my future visits to the restaurant there, I've always been taken aback by the incredible devotion and love and taste. And I specifically remember how Kalachandji's was such a significant part of our festival called Sadhu Sangha. That was the highlight of the festival, was, for me anyway, was the prasadam that came from the Kalachandji crew, which was most amazing. And this was Srila Prabhupada's desire. He built this movement primarily in the beginning. I joined in 1971. Prasadam and Kirtan. These are the two driving factors that Srila Prabhupada himself personally cooked for all the devotees. And he would cook, as you will, if you ever hear Jayadvaita Swami speak in 1968, he would make at least 12 preparations, 2 types of rice, 2 savories, 2 chutneys, 3 or 4 types of sweets, glubjamins, halva, sweet rice, chutneys, pakoras, samosas, puris. And this is how the Krishna consciousness movement caught on fire. And that's what actually brought us to the movement, was the wonderful prasadam. And I've always seen that standard maintained in the Kalachandji restaurant. And I know that His Holiness Tomal Krishna Maharaj is very pleased by all the wonderful seva and service that the devotees have performed over the years. And I did have one curious question, because I know that our godbrother Dristadumna Prabhu was very instrumental in many of the pastimes with Tomal Krishna Maharaj, and I'm curious to know if he had been contacted and uh, engaged in this most auspicious 50th anniversary uh, celebration.
Yes. He had spoken earlier. Drashta Prabhu had spoken earlier. Yes.
Oh,
I
Really?
said just a Dumna Swami.
Oh, that's Dishim Swami. That's different. Right. No, I don't think we've done that yet. We've not got him yet.
You'll have to excuse me. We just got back from India and not in the best of shape, still experiencing jet lag, and it's been quite a journey. But
Yeah.
I feel very honored and very happy to have been able to participate in one shape or form here to expand the horizons of the pastimes of Kalachandji's and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was very, very dear to our hearts, especially Kamalini can speak directly how he engaged her in so many different Sankirtan. And at one point he even asked her to give the name of one of his disciples. He had two choices, but I think she could share some.
Oh.
Yes.
And also you used Yamuna's cookbook, right?
Most definitely, Jamuna's cookbook was a prominent figure
Yeah.
in our recipes.
And we've seen there's been so many restaurants that come and go, or they stay open for a year or two, then they close, then they open again, then they close, and then so much constant change of management and changing of recipes and all. But one of the main attractive features of Dallas over all these years really is that sense of stability. Even Tamal Krishna Maharaj had told me, like most temples, people join, as brahmacharis and brahmacharinis, but Dallas is very unique in the sense that many married couples joined. We see that they joined and became devotees. So, like he said, although they may not have been brahmacharis, brahmacharinis, they still made very nice progress in spiritual life, and the stability, just like Jayanti teaching in the Gurukula for so many years, and even teaching grandchildren of some of her students, like generations of teaching, and just that whole sense, of devotees there homesteading. And even now there's also more of an Indian community as well. Last time I was there, I saw they bought a lot of houses in the neighborhood and helping each other out with loans and stability. And we traveled on the youth bus tour, so that's how we stopped through Dallas. I think every year they stop there, and so that's another way that we got to be there. But the reason that we moved there is that, first of all, Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked me, I guess he had somebody call me and asked if I could come to Dallas to train the brahmacharinis for book distribution, because there were quite a few there. And so I remember I took a bus from here in North Carolina. I took a Greyhound bus to Dallas, right on Thanksgiving So it was very busy and long 24-hour ride. And so, and then when I was there, we went to San Antonio, Texas, and some of us stayed at some Indian motel with, I remember, no beds, just sheets on the floor. But so that was the first
Tell him
but-
he visited you.
yeah, and then I went several years until we moved there. And oh yeah, when we were on Sankirtan, a group of us, about maybe 4 or 5 of us, he actually came and visited. It was during the Christmas marathon. So on Christmas Eve, he came and visited us, and we had gotten him a hotel room, and he had his cook with him, and he asked,
Cool.
okay, tell me what menu you want, whatever you want, he will make it.
That's
So-
Gopal Raj.
Really?
Yes.
So we made up the menu, and he removed this smoke detector in the hotel room and cooked the feast, and he stayed there for Christmas Eve until Christmas Day. And so he was very encouraging in that way. So I went for probably 3 years in a row to do the Christmas marathon. But out of all my years of book distribution, Dallas was certainly my best year, well, my best time of distribution. In other words, that's when I distributed the most books, going to the airport. And there was such a drive, like such a push. And I never remember any class where he did not speak about book distribution. Unlike nowadays, when I hardly hear a class where book distribution is spoken about, unless like in Krishna Life in Atlanta or something like that. But we knew Tamal Krishnaraj way before Dallas, when we lived in the New York Temple, after the Radha Damodar party dismantled, in a sense, then he became the
GBC.
manager, GBC, and manager of the Manhattan Temple. So he was there. And I still can remember, like my husband mentioned, his classes. I used to say that they're like butter, like so soft. And well, although he was very strong, but I could remember them throughout the day. Throughout the day, I can remember portions of the class, and always so enlivening. And he was always affectionate to us, and and very grateful that I had come to. So that's what made us come there. I guess after one of the marathons, it was suggested, why don't you just move here? So we did, although we were not there very long, actually. But it's such a like my husband said, a family atmosphere, like a kind of closeness amongst the devotees. And just now we were in Vrindavan, and I got to meet with Injanila Mani and Chandravali, who you probably call Chandravali, but they were there, and Injanila's daughter. And so I used to go out a lot with Injanila Mani to the airport. And I also used to go to the Walmart there on the way back from the airport. And we lived in a little half of an apartment with Yoga Maya. It's one apartment divided in half. So we had a half of one. And my daughter went to the Gurukula with Jayanti. And my son was kind of in preschool with Archie there for a while. But and I visited several times. I've come for visits, and it's always so wonderful to be back there. And then again, the stability, so many of the same devotees, and just a very pure atmosphere. And I love the temple room with the beautiful arch by Sharma, isn't that his name? And
Yes.
just the way it's, they're kind of circular, the paintings, how they fit in the alcoves there. And I was there for Radhastami with the huge rose petal abhishek, and that was very spectacular to witness. And so many, and then like the restaurant, it just like gets better and better, always improving, so organized. And like one thing, like when we were living there, like the restaurant attracted such a high class clientele. The whole atmosphere was high class. And even though it's not on a busy street by any means, it's not the best neighborhood, still people would travel there to eat at Kalachandji's, and they still do. And I heard something recently, about how people have become devotees through the restaurant, and how they can go right and see the temple room, and see the deities, how it's all connected. But
I specifically remember when Sunanda had opened the restaurant originally, that in front of the building would be Mercedes and all these high class cars. People were coming in the throngs to get prasadam that he cooked, and he has always been a great pillar in my cooking career, and also a guru. And I so much remember how he opened that restaurant, and it was the most popular vegetarian restaurant in all of Dallas, and how the the street was lined with all these Cadillacs and Mercedes, and very rich people came. And
yeah, it probably still is. In those days, there weren't too many vegetarian restaurants, but it's probably still one of the most popular ones.
Yes.
Yeah, in Dallas. And what else?
in closing, I just wanted to thank you all for pushing us to have this wonderful interaction and conversation, so we can share parts of our devotional life, and how Dallas and Kalachandji's and Srila Tomal Krishna Maharaj have made such a indelible imprint on our lives and our Krishna consciousness that we will never forget. I oftentimes take a japa break going through the original. My wife has a copy of it. It's Tomal Krishna Maharaj's, what is that book? It has pictures of Maharaj, and
Oh, that I think Radha Charan is his name. He
Yeah.
made that big table book, and I bought several from him to distribute,
so it's always very enlivening to see.
because everybody's in there
Yeah.
with him. Yeah. Any questions you may have?
More
Yes.
comments?
Yes, I think, well, first of all, there's so many devotees here who met you when you were here, or met you subsequently, and all hold you so dearly in their hearts. We always speak very, very highly of you both. And, you're so much loved by all of us. And I'm sure the deities feel that way about you too. Such wonderful service. The deities, I'm sure every time you come here, the deities probably have a bigger smile on their faces to see
Aw.
you. And So, it's just been amazing how much impact you made on the temple, in the community, and the development of the temple, because it's devotees like you with such a loving attitude towards others that actually set the example that if we could follow, those of us who came subsequently could follow, and hopefully keep the torch alight, and move in the same direction. And fortunately, so far, the temple has been known for, the community has been known for nice relationships between devotees, just a welcoming atmosphere. When people come here, they always remark that, they feel very welcome by everybody, all the devotees, not just by certain devotees. All devotees are so welcoming like that. And so we really want to thank you for all that you did, and continue to do with your blessings with us, staying with us like that. That we
And
have,
we knew you before when you were in Kansas running the hotel, right? How we met you driving cross country. That was like a
and-
place to stop on the way.
yes, yes.
And you were always so hospitable
Yeah.
to us.
I already come through Dallas. So I picked up some of the nice sentiments from Dallas.
I was also very curious to know, I forgot his name, but he was very, very helpful and accommodating. The temple president that was there when we came in 1991.
That's Yudhisthira Prabhu?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
you Yudhisthira.
Yudhisthira Prabhu, yes.
Yeah.
Is he on this?
I
Was
don't
he able to be
think he sometimes
contacted?
does come on, but he's still with us, and he lives a little north of here now, around 40 minutes north of here.
Uh-huh.
Married again, and so his wife, wonderful wife. He lives up in a place called Little Elm in the north, and we have a very nice relationship. It's just amazing. He's still got his business on court, off court. You remember the
Yeah.
tennis business? He's still got that flourishing business, so he's doing well. He's happy. His daughter just recently got married. Colleen just recently got married, so that went very well as well. So
Yeah, she was born when we were living there.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, so much history. So devotees who are on the call, please unmute and ask any questions, make any comments you'd like also, please. And then we'll move on to Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu.
I'd also like to mention that I'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity. I really feel greatly acknowledged and nurtured and nourished by having this call. Originally, I was not so excited because of the way our jet lag is working, but it was really quite a wonderful exchange, and thank you for.
And we'd like to see the other ones. So you say that they are on YouTube, is that right?
Yes, they'll be on YouTube. Yeah, there's a whole
And
series.
how many have you done so far?
Shavya Prabhu, can you tell us? Shavya is the one who is the key.
I think we have done about 5 to 6
Okay.
and more to come.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
I will send you the links, Mother Kamalini.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Nice. Nice.
And Apura Prabhu, I have a question for you. Sunanda Prabhu was saying that when he was a cook, he used to have a calendar where he writes the menu for 30 days and he won't repeat. So what was the strategy you were following? Like, do you like set your menus for the 30 days, or how do you do the menu for the restaurant during your time?
Well, that was, his original, I, to the best of my ability, I tried to follow that program as much as possible. Although I couldn't do it for a month. I only did it for a week, but I do know that that is the standard I was working under in Govinda's in Arizona, Tucson, under Mother, what's her name? Sudamini. That is the best program to have all your menus printed out and written, and that way you can organize your bogus shopping, and everything is very very organized.
And of course, so many recipes are, like favorites. So they're always, always keeping them. So even though he came, he maintained a lot of the previous recipes as well, the menu. So much of the menu was kept the same. So the picture he spoke of, that was from a newspaper article. They did a food review, and that's what he meant. And they wrote how they thought things had improved. But yeah.
Is that
And
too-
I've also been to your kirtan, your New Year's week. Well, it goes on for some days, I think 5 days, the
It's done.
kirtan festival. And
Oh,
maybe it will be this year because the pandemic, it didn't happen.
Right.
But are you planning on that this year?
Yes, yes, it
Oh.
starts on the 30th and goes till the 2nd of January,
Uh-huh.
4 days, yes.
Jai.
This year, Sadhu Sangha is coming to Dallas. Big
Wow.
to Dallas.
Really? But not at the temple,
No,
right?
no, not at the temple, no, it's a little
Yeah.
more here. They're renting a very large facility that I think it's associated with some big hotel group, some big resort. And so everybody can be housed within the resort, and so that way.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah.
usually have a book table at Sadhu Sangha retreat when they're here in North Carolina. So I'll see about traveling to Dallas to have a book table.
Please do come. Please let us know so that we can accommodate you nicely and all.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Mother Kamalini, do you also help Apurva Prabhu in the restaurant, or you had your own service during your stay in Dallas?
Yeah, when I was in Dallas, I just distributed books. That was my service. But like I say, I do assist him, like when we do catering. I call it factory cooking, where because it's like repetitive. You're just making, like, say, rolling samosas, rolling gulab jamins, like repetitive. Because I don't go near the stove. I work on the other side of the kitchen where the water is. So I wash dishes, and because washing dishes, you don't have to use your brain so much. You could do other things with your brain and wash. And I make salads and some salad dressing, and I cut up vegetables, but I really don't go near the fire. I hardly ever cook. And so yeah. So I didn't help, although sometimes I guess if there was, like, for a festival or something like that, again, I would help with the factory cooking. No, just rolling things and all. I would do that. And then it's amazing how the Sunday feast was also in the restaurant, right? They had 2 Sunday feasts, one upstairs, and then guests could actually pay, right, and go to the restaurant also. So that was very unique and stuff.
It's most Western devotees or people who'd come to the temple would prefer to pay, and so we did that in the restaurant. So that way, they didn't like they were not going to be included. They felt included.
Right. And yeah, they weren't pressured if they didn't want to fully participate in the whole program.
Right.
They could do that, just come for prasadam, like many people do anyway.
And the menu was more friendly to them as well, because upstairs was more oriented towards Indian people.
Right, and
So,
spicy.
Yes, and so this menu worked out better for them. So it was a win-win situation for everybody. We made some money out of it too.
Yeah.
And my son usually comes for the kirtan program, Amalaharinam.
Hmm,
So when I went, he was there
yes.
singing as well. And we have a Srimad Bhagavatam reading group for more
years.
than 4 years now. And several devotees from Dallas are part of our reading group. We meet
Ah,
5 days a week, and especially Chaitanya Bhav. I think you may know him.
yes.
And
It's
he,
not-
he directs a program at the university, like a Bhakti Lounge kind of thing. And so when we finished the whole Bhagavatam that day, he said, "May I invite the members of our university group if they would like to join?" So, because we started over the day we finished, the next day we started from Canto 1 again. And so he invited them, and like 4 or 5 people joined. And one was brand new. It was a brand new, a married couple. The man had been part of it for some time. And then he had just gotten married. And so they joined, and they've become very strong members of the group and aspiring to get initiated. They moved from Dallas now to Pittsburgh, but then a couple of others, Alak, and then a couple, they're all getting PhDs and all. So a couple of them couldn't really maintain it. But still, there's a few from Dallas in the group.
Hare Krishna.
There he is.
Oh, there it is.
Guy.
Purvasa and
Jai
Kalachandji.
Chaitanya Bhaktivinoda.
It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to see you finally after such a long time.
A month.
Thank you so
Month.
much.
We've been gone for a month in Vrindavan. So
Yes,
great to
yeah,
see
it
you.
was so wonderful to hear from you. All of your remembrances of your time in Dallas. It makes me feel so much nicer that that Dallas connection is there with both of you also. That we actually saw. I was showing a lot of my friends the picture of Apurva Prabhu's picture was on a newspaper cutout. It's right in front of the restaurant. It's still there. So yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, we are all waiting to hear when you're coming to Dallas. Please come
Yes.
soon so that we can host you.
Jai, maybe we can come for the Kirtan festival.
That would be-
Yes.
Actually, Chaitanya Bhav actually sponsored me to come about 5 years ago.
Oh,
And then that night before leaving, I got really, really sick. I was already a little sick, but I got very sick and had to cancel my flight.
unfortunately.
Well, we hope we can come this year, or at least for Sadhu Sangha, you have to come. But please come as soon as possible over here.
Yeah, Sadhu Sangha, okay.
Nice, so nice. So you can see how much love everybody has. You should move to Dallas. and stay with us.
Well, believe me, we've thought of it. My daughter, she has two grown children now. You remember Panchatattva,
Yes,
now
yes.
named Garangi Priya, and a 9-year-old. And
Wow.
we've talked about it, how it's such a nice Gurukula, and we're good. Of course, she grew up with Gopi,
Yes.
Gopi Gita here in North Carolina and in Detroit. And so, yeah, we thought what a nice place to raise children.
Yeah.
They're such a wonderful school. Yeah.
Thank you. Well,
Okay. Well, thank you.
thank you also very, very much. Please stay on as much as you want to, but we understand you're going through this jet lag, so please take some rest.
Oh, yeah. It's 1 hour later for us here. I didn't realize that. Today's my 9-year-old granddaughter's birthday.
Wow.
So I went there and I had to rush out to get back here. And then I wrote Shaibia. I said, I'm not seeing anything. She said, no, it's in another hour, because I forgot it's an hour later here.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so very much for taking this on this much trouble for us. We really appreciate this. It's so sweet. I'm thinking years from now, when devotees look back at this, they'll think, wow, these devotees had so much love for one another. They cared so much for one another, It just so helps so much to know that this is the origins of an amazing movement, you know, that this is what happened. Of course, we're 50 years away, but you started earlier, and all the wonderful things happened at that time as well, you know, just amazing.
Well, Nityananda Prabhu, you are by far one of our very favorite devotees, and just like the nicest person and the best manager, and even
Dedicated to
the like Chaitanya Bhav and Alak, they even talk about how they love to do some service under your direction.
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
Bengali.
Oh, and of course your dear wife, yeah.
She's such a good
All
cook.
of the wonderful leaders we have in Dallas, they're so wonderful.
Mm,
They're a team, you know, and as a team, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and we sort of take care of each other in a way that somehow it works out nicely.
wow, wonderful.
Thank you so very much.
We're also very inspired how you maintain a very high level of sadhana and chanting so many rounds every day, and simultaneously maintaining your the temple there overseeing. It's quite amazing how you fit it all in. It's
It's
very
always
exemplary.
devotees like yourself, you know. You're the ones who give me the mercy to do things. It's only by the mercy of the devotees things happen. Otherwise, not capable of doing anything at all. All right, so wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Devotees,
Is Chaitanya Chandra,
it's coming on next. Yes, Chaitanya Chandra is going to be our next speaker. And, yeah.
like right now?
Yes, right now. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, there he is.
Can you unmute, Prabhu? So that
Give him our best
He's right
regards.
there. You can give him yourself.
Oh.
just he's muted right now.
Oh yeah, let me
Yeah.
mute us.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you
There
hear me?
go. Yes, now we can. Thank you, Prabhu.
Sorry, I had a doctor's appointment and I'm rushing back to the house. I'm about 4 minutes from the house, so I'll talk for a couple of minutes driving in the car, and then I'm going to where there's some light in the house because I can't figure out how to turn any lights on. I got my son's car and I don't know how to where all the lights are. But anyway, I wanted to offer my obeisances to Kamlini and Apurva Prabhus and to everybody else.
Hi, obeisances to you.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada.
Right. Yeah.
All glories to Tamal Krishna Goswami and to Shri Radha Kalachandji Dham and all the Radha
Yeah.
Kalachandji and everybody.
Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, let me introduce you first so that those
Okay.
who hear you will know about you. Well, we need to.
Sorry, by the time you finish, I'll probably be in my house. So I'm
That's good. Yeah, and you'll be in a better place also. Okay, so His Grace Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu joined ISKCON on the Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party in San Francisco in 1975, May, when he met His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami and His Holiness Vishnu Jana Swami, who were traveling on the Radha Damodar bus. 7 weeks later, he was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in Chicago as part of one of the biggest initiations up to that time in ISKCON. After spending about 3 years traveling on Traveling Sankirtan Party, he moved to St. Louis, preaching and book distribution. Under the guidance of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, he moved to Gita Nagari, collecting funds for the Oklahoma farm in the early 80s. Then he moved to Dallas, serving as the temple commander, preaching, book distribution, and helping with Kalachandji's restaurant when it started. In 1986, he married Her Grace Neela Madhava and is serving in Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji Dham. In 2010, he started preaching in El Paso and with other devotees, having a steady preaching program, conducting Ratha Yatra and other festivals. Thank you so very much, Prabhu, and we'll wait for you to come on.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, sorry, I'm just around the corner from the house. But yeah, thank you. Actually, it was 4 weeks after I joined the Radha Damodar Party, got initiated.
Oh,
Tamal Yeah, I joined I went to go see Prabhupada in Los Angeles with Keshava, Purandar's brother, just after my 19th birthday. And Tamal Krishnamars, we stayed there for a few days, and he sent me back to uh, San Francisco. And he and Vishu John Swami were the main bhakti leaders for our Radha Damodar party, and there were some other assistants. And so yeah, so when we got to Chicago, we were in Denver, we were in San Francisco for a couple of weeks, and then we went to Denver to see Srila Prabhupada. And then after Denver, we went to Chicago, and that's where Prabhupada had the big initiation. So Tamal Krishnamars, when I got there to Chicago, I was just totally green, 1 month on the bus there. And he said, you should get initiated. I was like, okay, whatever you think. I didn't even know what it was really. And I mean, exactly, of course, but I'm getting out of the car and going into the house right now. So it was pretty amazing, quick display of Srila Prabhupada's mercy that such a fallen soul as myself, he would accept and I could get initiated after just a month. It was, anyway, yeah, Tamal Krishna Goswami back in 1979. I was in Philadelphia distributing books, and Sunanda Prabhu was there cooking for Lord Jagannath. And shortly after that, I'm back in the house. Okay.
Oh.
Shortly after that, yeah, we had a reunion. Tamal Krishnamars actually asked everybody to come back, all the Radha Damodar party, because we were in Philadelphia and around there. Before Srila Prabhupada left, we were actually going to meet. That's when Srila Prabhupada was going to come to Gita Nagari. So I ended up being in the east part of America there for a little while, and then moved to the Philly temple in '78 after Prabhupada left, and distributed the books there in the airport till '79. So then we went to St. Louis. Giridhari Brahmachari and Drishadumna Swami and myself drove to from Philadelphia to St. Louis, and that's when they decided, it was a big thing around our movement to buy farms at that time because everybody wanted to establish what Prabhupada wanted to do. Said his 50% of his work wasn't done. So there was a big push to do farm communities. So they bought a farm in Oklahoma. And so I was asked in 80 to go there to go help Shivaram Swami on the farm. So it was pretty wonderful. We had a wonderful brahmachari ashram there, a lot of brahmacharis from Chicago and St. Louis and Houston and Dallas. And so we had a big garden, and we used to come back and forth to bring produce to Kalachandji temple before the restaurant opened, just truckloads of stuff. And then when it came 1982, when they were just getting ready to open the temple room in Dallas, when it was being constructed, I asked Tamal Krishnamars if I could move back to Dallas because I wanted to be involved in the restaurant. I wasn't really like a country person, a farm boy. Although we loved doing everything we did out there, it was wonderful, but I still wanted to be part of the preaching. So I came back right before we opened on Janmashtami, we had the grand opening of the Radha Kalachandji's temple. Kalachandji was in the back end of the temple room, surrounded by black plastic. That was their altar. It was this really temporary altar. And then when the actual altar was finished and they had the grand opening, it was so amazing because, B.G. Sharma's paintings had just been installed and the altar had just been built. And it was a fabulous grand opening. It was just so amazing. And then the big crew that built the temple room, they decided, because Sunanda and Rohini, Sutta Prabhu, who were in Dallas at the time, Rohini Sutta and Sunanda got together, I believe is the history, and they discussed opening the restaurant. So it was their idea, from what I remember, to open the restaurant. And they presented it to Tamal Krishna Goswami because they were originally going to turn Kalachandji's restaurant into a museum, because we wanted to have people come there, you know, to visit the temple, because the temple room was so beautiful and all that. They were going to open a museum, but Rohini and Sunanda convinced Tamal Krishna Goswami, they, you know, came to the conclusion they should open the restaurant. So then they built the restaurant. The whole crew spent, it took them 2 months to completely build the whole restaurant. Pashupati, Jayagopal, Gauranga, Nakula Brahmachari, Balaram, Yasomati Nandana, boy, I'm forgetting some of the names of some of the devotees that helped, that were on the crew. Anyway, so they after Tamal Krishna Goswami went with Pashupati to Europe and to India to look at structures to figure out how they wanted to build a restaurant. They checked a lot of different places out and came up with a design for the restaurant, and so that's what they built. And it was a hit from when the doors opened. It was busy. Krishna Shakti and her friend, she was a famous hairdresser, hairstylist here in Dallas, and she was the big vegetarian pusher at the time. So she got all of her friends to come, all of her wealthy friends to come, and then Nandini Kartikeya also came at that time. And the restaurant exploded upon opening. It was such a hit because the Sunanda cooked so phenomenally, and the price was only like $5.50 a plate. And the people, it just blew everybody's mind because the cooking was so fantastic. Tamal Krishna Goswami used to come in and help make the plates up. Leelavati's husband, I forget his name now, he was helping Sunanda cook. We had 3 full-time pot washers and a couple of other preppers, and it was just, and 5 waitresses. We had 5 devotee waitresses. It was a total full-service restaurant, beautiful, beautiful tablecloths and plates, and these beautiful, like, Oriental kind of style black flower pots with lotus petals and dried flowers. And they used to make up the plates and put lettuce down or kale or some kind of green with a sabji on top, and it was all beautifully decorated. And they brought like a basket of hot puris and a basket of papadums, and then they would bring an appetizer, which was always totally off the charts. It was Sunanda's appetizers were to die for. Us brahmacharis would steal them whenever we got a chance. And you know, it was just so amazing. So my first service was, what happened was, we used to have an evening program in the temple room, and it got so busy in the restaurant that we didn't know what to do with all the people. So Gopalacharya, who was the president at the time, I think, and Tamal Krishna Goswami, Govinda Dasi, myself, and Purnachandra came up with a tour of the temple room. So we stopped the Bhagavad Gita class and had it shifted somewhere, I forget where it was now, up in Prabhupada's room or something. And so we brought all the customers in. Instead of waiting in line outdoors, we let them wait line in the temple room, where we gave them a full tour of the temple room. And by the time we were done with the tour, there would be a table open, and the customers would go get their seat, and then more customers would come in. So on the weekends, all 5 of us were there. Tamal Krishna Goswami, myself, Gopalacharya, Purnachandra, Govinda Dasi, we were all giving tours to the customers. And then the food editors would come. Of course, you don't know who they are, but I remember the first article that came out, I believe it was the first one. It said, when you come to Kalachandji's, bring your appetites, leave your stereotypes, and expect a spiritual experience. I mean, and then that was just like the headline. And there was a whole article, and we couldn't even have made up how good the article was. It was so amazingly positive. The people were having such a fabulous experience there at Kalachandji's that these articles would come out, and that weekend we would get an extra 50 to 100 people every weekend, Friday and Saturday. It got to be where we were doing like 200 people on Saturday evenings and average like 150 people on Saturday. It was on Fridays. It was so busy. And so then from the tours, we were having home programs at Krishna Shakti's house. We would invite these people who were so interested in Krishna from coming to the temple, the restaurant. I mean, I had so many people, but I remember one family, like Apurva was mentioning, all these people came in their Mercedes and their BMWs and their Cadillacs and stuff. It was amazing. So one lady came in and said, we used to really hate you, Hare Krishnas, because of seeing you in the airport. But now we love you because we see you in your own place here. You're so wonderful. We love you so much now. We see you in your own habitat, and we see you here in the restaurant, and everything is so wonderful. And so it was like that. It was like Krishna consciousness. The restaurant turned everybody favorable. It was just an incredible thing. We were having so many home programs with so many people. We made several devotees from these home programs at Krishna Shakti's house. And it was an incredible, I was the drum player for Tamal Krishna Goswami. I'd sing sometimes. He would be the speaker. I'd help him do the kirtan, or at least play the drum. And then Sunanda Prabhu was having preaching programs all over the place. Just fabulous preaching programs and preaching to people in the restaurant. The restaurant was a preaching tool, period. It wasn't anything other than a preaching tool. And we took full advantage of that. Yudhisthira was there and a little bit later, but we had flyers and invited people and took, surveys and, and even, later on, after a little while during the December marathon, when my wife and I were there for that 1 month, we would actually sell books to the customers. And because they loved us so much, my wife came every year just behind Indranila Mani. Indranila was the biggest. My wife was always right behind her because of selling the books in the restaurant, because the people were so nice. They would give us such huge donations to buy books, to pay for books. So it was really fabulous. And then we decided that, we wanted to have a Sunday feast that was separate from the Indian community feast upstairs, because it was very spicy and oily and everything. Not to criticize the cooking, but that's the way it was. So we decided to have a $4 simpler menu on Sunday evening. It was $4, and Indranila and myself and my wife and all this, so many, Radha Vinod and the devotees who were actually active preachers, that we would all come in and sit with people in the restaurant. And everybody knew that was our day to come in and talk to them. It was kind of like and the prasadam was always really, really good. It was like, we had like 2 subjis, rice, dal, halva. And it was simple, but really, really good. And it was huge. It was gigantic. So many people would come. $4, It went up to 5 a couple of years afterwards. And we kept doing it. We did it for several years. I forget how many years we did it for. And then I don't know what happened. We decided not to do it anymore. I don't know the history of how we stopped it, but anyway, so the restaurant was going on and we were just making tons of wonderful connections with people. And at one point, just my job was to just pour tea. We had enough helpers on the floor, so I was just pouring tea and water and talking to customers. So I was just making friends with everybody. They used to call me Mr. Kalachandji back in the day. And so I would just, make friends with everybody. And one of our good friends and his family were giving about $1,000 a month as a donation to the temple, just from our preaching to them. And somebody else was giving like 400. And so people were very, very, they wanted to be part of Kalachandji's community. It became like this amazing, and then we gradually started fixing up all the houses. And so people loved coming to the neighborhood because we had these quaint little houses in East Dallas. And it was just really, really busy. But then later on, all the waitresses got married, and they were already married pretty much. They're all married, and they all started to have children, and some of them started to move. So we basically lost all of our waitresses except for one. And she wasn't, you know, able to keep up with what we were doing, and it was just too busy. So that's when I decided to change it to a buffet style. So myself and Antoyami, who was the temple commander at that time, we changed over to a buffet and set up the steam table. We left the salad bar where it was. We just added the steam table. Like, as soon as you walk into from the gift shop on the right, we set up a steam table there. And it was kind of around the same time. I don't have my years all straight, and I'm not sure what year Apurva came, because he came and started cooking the lunch. My wife was cooking the dinner at the time for about a year. And but anyway, we opened, and about around just after that, shortly, Sunanda got married, like in 86, 87, something like that. And he so we needed a different cook because Sunanda moved, basically. So then we opened up for lunch around that same time. We switched to buffet, and then we opened it up for lunch. Myself and Arjayama, we also orchestrated the whole lunch program, and got it all switched over so that we could start opening, have lunchtime. So there was our crew, our restaurant crew, the cooks, the cut up, everybody, and then he and I and a few others. Like I said, we set it up so that we could serve out lunch. And it was a little rocky there for a little while when Sunanda left, because his cooking was so amazing that we didn't actually have a a person of his caliber to cook right afterwards. So that you may remember Hainam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he took over the cooking and was using Yamuna's cookbook, and it was a lot more simple. And when Sunanda left, we lost a lot of customers because the Prasadam kind of went through changes for a little while. But gradually it stabilized, and we started getting different cooks to come in, and it picked back up. We raised the prices at one point from $5.50 to, I think it was like almost $8, like seven something, almost $8. We lost a lot of customers at that time between the price change, and that took several months to recuperate the customers again. Because $5.50 was really cheap, Nobody had a problem coming for $5.50. It was just, it was pretty busy. Anyway, I during Sunanda's cooking around 1987, 1986, I was living across the street where Nartam lives, and I had the flu really bad at some time. It was like a fever or something, I forget what it was, but I was kind of managing the whole place at that time. I was managing the gift shop, and I was kind of doing a lot that time. So I came in just to check on the restaurant, and I walked out into the courtyard, and my hairs stood up on end. The most amazing thing was going on. I walked in there, and everybody at every table was laughing. Like, you know how when you laugh and you can't stop laughing?
Yeah.
The people were like intoxicated. Everybody at every table was in an uproar of laughter. And I was just like, oh my God, Sunanda's cooking and Kalachandji's mercy, because we offered all the prashadam to Kalachandji. We didn't, all of it was offered to Radha Kalachandji. We didn't offer it on the side. They were so intoxicated from this prashadam that they were just laughing and laughing, and my hairs were standing on it. I was like, wow, Kalachandji's really, this is really powerful, The people really were getting intoxicated. And people used to, because I was, even though I wasn't managing everything, but they kind of saw me as the manager. So I would get called to the table from people that had questions. So one time, this elderly couple, they're probably in their 60s. Here I am, 66 now. I was back there in my maybe early 30s, and this man was like, I have a question for you, and I was worried, something's wrong. And he says, we have a question. I said, yeah. And he goes, well, every time I eat here, when we eat together here, we feel completely intoxicated. Do you put drugs in the food? And we were like, I was just saying, I was like, oh boy, that's an easy one. I'm glad, glad that was the question. And so shortly after that, because I was there for 16 years in the restaurant. So shortly after that time, I took a survey of all the people that were coming to the restaurant. There were people that were coming from the first month, still coming for years. There still are people coming from the very beginning that still come to Kalachandji's from the time it opened. So I knew all these people really well because I was the head waiter for the dinner. And, you know, we got to meet everybody. We gave them sweets and garlands and books and tours and answered their questions. So I was really friendly with a lot of people. I was Mr. Kalachandji, you know. That's what they told me anyway. It was an article in the newspaper that said that. Anyway, so I asked everybody why. And the first guy I asked, I haven't been there for a while, so I don't know if he still comes, but he was a brain surgeon from Baylor. Really sweet guy. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But he's the first one I asked because he was really humble and he came by himself. I said, why do you come here to Kalachandji's after all these years? What's keeping you coming back? He goes, well, this is the only place I feel happy.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. He goes, yeah, it's the only place I actually feel at home and happy. And so I continued to ask people because there was lots of people. So I asked like 20 different people. I think I wrote everything down at the time, but I didn't keep the paper. But so, and then I would ask the next person and they would say, well, I don't know what it is. The music, the fountains, the this, the that, but I just have to be here. And I only feel happy when I come here and eat. It was kind of like almost the same answer. People were like, I feel at home here. I feel happy here. I feel like this is the shelter from this crazy world. You know, it was like answers. They were all pretty consistent, you know. And of course, they all love the food. But anyway, so, you know, we did the tours for many, many years in the temple room, and people would come back with their group and they would give them the tour. And we would stop at each painting. We'd come in on the, on the left side and start with the transparencies. We'd explain each one of those, each one of the paintings. And we would come to Kalachandji's and mainly talk about the altar. We didn't talk about the deities so much. We talked about how beautiful and how all the devotees would make their garlands and their outfits and how everything was so beautiful. Then we come around to the side and explain. Then Prabhupada was there. And then we had a table with a set of books and the changing body exhibit. And so that's where we would stop and distribute books to people. We didn't have a table out in the front yet. So we would have lots of books there and we would stop and talk to everybody and give them all books and they would give some donation or not, whatever. We were just trying to be giving to the people. And we had little booties. We had like these little hospital shoe booties, those little cloth shoes you put on. We had those for everybody so they wouldn't have to take their shoes off. Kirtada, I think she brought, I don't know if it was her, but anyway, we came up with the idea somehow and that's how, so people didn't have to take their shoes off. They would just sit down and put these booties on and go walk in the temple room. We're cool with that. And we, change out the booties every week for fresh ones. But it was so amazing because people would walk into the temple room specifically after they ate. People would come in for tours, the ones that didn't get the tour before. And we'd be sitting there in the back of the temple room waiting to give them a tour, whoever came in. So as we're sitting there watching the people, after they had eaten prasadam, and when they walk into that amazingly beautiful temple room, it blew everybody's mind pretty much. People would walk in and their jaws would drop and they would go, ah. And then you knew you could talk to them all you wanted to. Those people's hearts were wide open. They had eaten prasadam, they were fully intoxicated from the prasadam, and then they'd walk into the temple room and it would blow their minds. they would just come in and just be astonished at how beautiful it was. And so then we were like, okay, we know we can go all the way with these people. We can tell them anything, you know, they're so receptive. And then some people would come walking in and they wouldn't even have a reaction. So we knew we couldn't, you know, we wouldn't be able to get too far with them. But it was, you know, it was a wonderful preaching opportunity at all times. And then, you know, later on, like I said, we changed, but we still maintained serving the drinks and the desserts, and we kept on cultivating people. And Tamal Krishnamaj made requests, like of my wife, that he wanted her to cultivate the people in the restaurant who were coming to make them devotees. So we, you know, we continued to have home programs at my house here, and different home programs at other people's homes, and we made several people devotees and hundreds of devotees, because a lot of the people, when they heard the tour and they would ask questions and they would take the books and they would ask more questions over the years, and then these people all would become, they were all devotees, but they were closet devotees. They accepted Krishna consciousness completely. There are so many people that have accepted Krishna consciousness in Dallas because of Kalachandjis. There are thousands of people who are closet devotees, and sometimes you meet the people when you're on Sankirtana doing this. So I meet my old friends at Whole Foods sometimes, and they're just all like so completely favorable, and they've accepted Krishna, and it was just a wonderful experience to see the people transforming. There was this one lady, Nicole. She used to, before she ate, she would go and sit in the temple room and meditate on Prabhupada for at least an hour before she had dinner. She would just sit there across, you know, on the bench, and just sit there cross-legged or sit on the floor on a cushion in like a yoga pose and just look at Prabhupada. And one day I came in, I said, "Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you." And she was crying. And I said, "Wow, what happened? Are you okay?" She goes, "I saw Srila Prabhupada. I saw a tear come out of Srila Prabhupada's eye. I was praying to him and meditating on him, and I saw him cry." And she was so like amazingly happy and purified, like the internal potency, like Prabhupada, you know, just grabbed her heart, you know what I mean? It was like, it was so wonderful to see that. And people, of course, we still experience the same thing. People come in and say, who is that man sitting there on the chair? You know, who is he? And they you know, he's there. They don't think he's a statue. And one time, I'm not going to talk too much longer, but one time I was in the restaurant, and I think it was lunch, and some lady comes in. She's like a yoga teacher, and she comes in. She goes, "You know, you guys have the most amazing advertising I've ever experienced." And I'm like, "Really?" I said, "What are you talking about? What advertising?" She goes, "Well, I was driving past on Highway 30, and I could feel the spiritual atmosphere from the temple there on the highway, and it made me turn my head, and I saw the top of the temple with the chakra." And so then she got off the highway and figured out how to get there to the temple. And she came in and she told me I could feel the power of the temple from the highway. And I was like, wow, that was really cool. That was perception there. She had some her spiritual antennas were up for sure. So, you know, over these years, these 40 years, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people have taken prasadam there at Kalachandji. I haven't I calculated it a few years ago, but now I don't know how many, you know, over 1 million for sure. I'm guessing. I think from my previous calculate, we served so much prasadam there at the temple over all the years that there's a lot of people, and the devotees that go on Sankirtan that meet people on book distribution, that they tell them they're from Kalachandjis. It's like, oh wow, really? Everybody's so favorable. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, when he, you know, he spent a lot of time preaching in this restaurant, and he used to have my wife, Ladini Shakti, other ladies help him, Leela, different other ladies help him when he would have like his big Thanksgiving dinner for all the professors and stuff that he would invite that would come from all the universities to come to their classes there. He made friends with all of them and invite them all, and he would feed them all this beautiful feast and give them a big fruit basket at the end with books and different things. And so he really was like a wonderful preaching driving force of Kalachandji's, and he always wanted to make sure everything was in great shape and that everybody was doing good, and he would, you know, continue to preach to people while he was there. And so, you know, the legacy of Kalachandji's, I got to be there for 16 years. I got to do everything that there was to do there. I was the head main entree chef for a little while. Of course, I was never a cook like Apurva and other, those were real cooks, but I cooked and cleaned, washed the pots, bussed the tables, took care of the customers, ran the gift shop, managed the whole thing, did all the shopping. I've done everything there for, you know, all those 16 years. I did everything. And it was always such a pleasure to walk through those doors. It was never, it was always like, as soon as I walked in, I got transformed by Kalachandji's potency, just to be happy and get it done. And so many amazing things happened. There's so many thousands of wonderful people that we met and got a chance to answer questions. And, you know, I would, like I said, when I was walking around the tea, one table would stop me and say, I'd say, do you have any questions about any of the preparations or any other questions? And they would always say yes. So they would ask me about a prep or whatever. And then they would always ask about, well, what do you guys teach? You know, what is your philosophy? So one table would be asking the questions, but everybody else you could see leaning over with their ears because they wanted to hear what our teachings were. And I remember one time during the, you know, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was trying to get a tour company to come get us on the city tour guide schedule to bring people to have busloads of people come. So David Prabhu was here at the time, and he and I did this program. I'm not sure how many devotees were involved besides he and I. There was others, I just can't remember. We went to oh God, what's that junior college right on Abrams and 635 there? Richland College. We went to Richland College because one of the teachers that came to the restaurant taught there, and he invited us to come there. So they had a class, and it was all of us from Kalachandji, so we catered it. We had prasadam. I think Sunanda must have been there. I don't remember. But it was one of the events that we did from the restaurant, kind of. So they had 6 different religions give classes to all the kids in the whole college. So we rotated full classrooms until it was all day long. So these 6 different churches gave classes. And at the end, they rated everybody. They took a vote from all the kids, which was best. And Hare Krishna was the best. 96% of all the kids accepted that Krishna consciousness was the most, they could relate to it the most, and it gave them more answers to their questions and everything. 96%. That was, you know, that was back in the late 80s probably. So Kalachandji's has had like such an amazing impact on the city. It's there's no way to calculate how deep and how far. It's kind of like, you know, the Krishna lunch in Florida, how so many thousands of people around the country got prasadam there and remember it with so much love that they ate, you know, there at the Krishna lunch. There's 2 or 3 people here in Dallas that ate lunch there that I know, old friends that went to college there. So there's no way to calculate the great benefit that Kalachandji's is, you know, how much mercy people have gotten from coming there and how much Krishna consciousness they've got. We just hope that we can someday again revitalize the tours and cultivating the people there more. Of course, now we have the Krishna, what's it called upstairs? The Darshan room started again. But there's such a wealth of favorable people there because they come in and they get purified being there in the atmosphere. So it's a special program and all the different people who got to cook, like Chota Haridas cooked, I think. I'm not sure between him and Sunanda what years Chota was cooking. Then I can't remember the devotee from South Africa, what his name was. Anybody remember his name? There was a cook there for about a year and a half. Really wonderful devotee from Africa. He cooked. Radha Gopinath, who is Tamal Krishna Maharaj's disciple, he lives in Florida. He cooked. What was his name? Somebody gave a comment on what that African devotee's name was. Anyway, so Radha Gopinath, Chota, Apurva, you know, so many different devotees cooked. Then Daruka's mom cooked for quite some time there. And then now Sweta's there cooking, and Daruka, of course, has cooked. And of course, your wife has been cooking there for years. So there's been so many different devotees over the years who have cooked prasadam for the restaurant, and everybody who's been involved with it has always made good friends with the people that come there. And so we've made thousands of devotees, really prasadam devotees at least, you know, and so many others who have accepted Krishna. So the restaurant is such a great facility, and as it's kind of like, you know, there's 3 jewels there in the community. Of course, Radha Kalachandji are the center jewel, the restaurant, and then the school. Because the school is really, I mean, it's bringing people to the community more than anything, I believe. You know, so many people are coming to bring their children to the school, and Kalachandji's is there, and of course, the worship of Radha Kalachandji is the cause of the whole thing. If they weren't there, we wouldn't be here. Radha Kalachandji are orchestrating all these different things to continue. He's maintaining all these different, the wonderful restaurant and the preaching, and now they're distributing food to all the colleges, which is totally amazing. How many plates of prasadam are going out? More, actually, I think more are going out through the colleges than the restaurant, I think, according to Darasha. So, you know, we're distributing tons of prasadam here. It's just an amazing thing. I was there the other day cooking for Prabhupada's disappearance feast, and just watching the intensity of how many devotees are involved in cooking for the daily distribution. It's like, wow, what a machine we got going here. It's such a great, such an amazing amount of prasadam going out. Such an honor to see how Kalachandji and the devotees, yourself, everybody, how it's all being, you know, maintained and pushed, and, you know, continues to go on and on. So I just want to, and Jivananda also, he was there for a while as the president of the temple when the restaurant was opening, I think in the beginning days. I forget who the presidents all were. It was Gopalacharya, Naveen Krishna was one of the presidents, Gopalacharya, Mahabhuti,
Radhanath Prabhu.
Radhanath, it was right in the beginning. Radhanath, Yudhisthira, and I'm missing somebody. The first one that was there, maybe before we opened the restaurant, was Bhakti Rupa. But I think I've been through 12 or 13 temple presidents at least in Dallas. There's
Were
been
you
a
when
lot of,
Satsarup Maharaj was the temple president?
huh?
Were you here when Satsarup Maharaj was the temple president?
No. We all came. Gurudev came right after that. Actually, he
After that.
left and took, but we came right after that. I didn't come until like 1980 to the farm,
Oh,
and then I came back in '82. I was back and forth, but came from '82. So there was so many different devotees got to do service here and participate and help the restaurant and help the preaching here, and it's definitely the spiritual beacon in Dallas. There's so many temples, you know, the different wonderful Hindu temples where people do their stuff, but Kalachandji's temple, I believe, in my experience at least, it's the most spiritually powerful. Not to criticize any of the temples or anything, but I think it's the most powerful temple here. Kalachandji's mercy is very powerful. Prabhupada was here, so it's a special tirtha because Prabhupada was here, and so many powerful Vaishnavas. Anyway, I'll stop. Anybody have any questions? Sorry.
I have Mother Padma's hands up. Mother Padma, you want to unmute and ask or say what you wanted to say?
I can't hear her.
No, she's not.
I think,
Now
I
she-
think, I think that was a mistake, sorry.
Oh, mistake. Appropriate mistake. Well, Chaitanya Prabhu, I wanted to say that, it's no wonder how many people love you here so much. You've done so much and you continue to do so much for the movement and of course everything that's happening here in Dallas. And one part that really moved a lot of us was the rip-roaring kirtans that were happening in the 90s. You might remember 93, 94, 95. It's just, you all. And my question was, did the restaurant customers that you knew join you in that and participate with that as well?
Well, what happened was, Urjaswat moved here and Vikresh was here, and the temple there was very few people in the Sunday feast, maybe 20 people. It was really slow. And they started having this 1 hour kirtan,
Right.
really enthusiastic kirtan. And gradually, within a short time, the temple room was packed for that kirtan.
Right.
So I was still working in the restaurant at the time because the restaurant was like, I had to be there. It was just like, it was so busy. It was so busy all the time. The weekends in particular were just so busy. I remember some people a few meetings ago we had, some people were saying, oh, it's more busy now. I was like, no, it wasn't more busy now. It was really busy back then. And you couldn't get out of it. So, but Urjaswat and Vikresh came in the restaurant and they said, look, you got to get out of this whole restaurant thing on Sunday, and you just for the kirtan, you got to come to the kirtan. And I was like, okay. They pushed me, So I came in because I was one of the Madranga players, and of course I'd been leading kirtans in Dallas for a long time.
Yes.
But anyway, that kirtan was very, very, very fun. The 1 hour nice kirtan, Rupa and Haridas, all the different young devotees were there. Your sons were there. All the youth were there. That kind of youth. It was like really, really sweet having all the Madranga players and doing the kirtan and getting fired up for a whole hour. And yeah, it was. What was your question?
Whether the restaurant customers joined you for that?
Yeah, a few of them did. Definitely, because it drew people in.
Yes.
The spiritual potency of the kirtan and the enthusiasm of the whole kirtan. I mean, everybody was there. You were there. Remember, we used to all take turns leading and dancing, and
Right.
there was so much enthusiasm there and so much potency that there was a few people that came in because you couldn't help it.
Right.
Because they would come in. The restaurant customers would come in. Like when they would finish, sometimes they would come in. I would notice when people would finish their dinner, they would come in, and I actually would invite a few people to come. A few of the ones who I knew were exposed enough where it wouldn't blow their mind or anything.
But did you at any time, do the kirtan through the restaurant? You remember we used to run around the temple and used to run around outside, and we used to take these groups that will go outside the temple room and chant outside the temple room too, because it was so enthusiastic,
Yeah.
If we ran through the restaurant, if we run through the restaurant, a lot more restaurant customers would have joined us.
Well, we always kind of wanted to keep the noise level down
Yes.
in the restaurant. That was always kind of our concern about the hallway and noise and stuff like that. And
Right.
so we were always, and that was one of the complaints that a few people had during the Sunday kirtan, is that we were too loud. And of course it was really loud. There's no question of that. There was, 250 devotees in there chanting enthusiastically.
Yeah.
So, that was true, but, it was very worth doing. It wasn't like,
Right.
because that's what increased the spiritual atmosphere of the whole temple and the restaurant. So people who got a chance to peek in and come in and take advantage of that, they got a nice, beautiful dose of the internal potency of the holy name and the devotees. So we can't underestimate that, you know what I mean? The extreme wonderful spiritual potency of the kirtans and the preaching here in the temple and the book distribution. Yeah, that was always fun. And then we go back into the restaurant afterwards. I'd, go back and I made sure somebody was covering for me. And then we would all meet for Gatorades in the restaurant and talk. Whoever wanted to come and talk to us while we were eating dinner and having Gatorade, and refresh ourselves because we were playing the drums so hard for that hour that we needed to come in and get, rejuvenated a little bit by having Gatorades and stuff. So Urdhaswat and myself in particular.
Yeah. Other devotees on the group, anybody would like to ask Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu any questions or anything?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question.
Please.
May I?
Yes.
You may.
Yes, I'm calling from Portugal, by the way. And I'm here because Apurva Prabhu and Mother Kamalini, they invited us to participate in this celebration. So I thank them very much. My question is, Chaitanya Prabhu, you know better than me, if I may say it, that one of the offenses against the chanting of the holy name is that the chanter shouldn't preach to the unfaithful. And also the Madhyamadikaris who are connected with Lord Chaitanya's movement, they are advised related to not preaching to the envious. But still, we are allowed to serve prasadam to these two categories of people, the unfaithful and the envious. So based on this, my question is, why is it that we still distribute prasadam to these two types of people? What is the effect of this prasadam distribution in their lives? That is my question.
Okay, I just want to clarify part of your question though, just to Srila Prabhupada, when Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that those who are most dear to him are those who preach to the devotees, this philosophy of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said the devotees disobey Krishna and they preach to the non-devotees. So we're on this level of preaching Krishna consciousness. It's not considered an offense when you're trying to preach to somebody to convince them about Krishna consciousness and to convince them to chant the holy names. It's not an offense. It's an offense if somebody's very, very critical and stuff, and you try and talk to them and they criticize you and yell at you back if the persons are completely out of control. But generally, people are innocent and they need to understand Krishna conscious philosophy. So Prabhupada says, so the devotees disobey the Lord, and they please the Lord even more by disobeying him, by preaching to the other people. So we don't consider when we're giving people the holy names that we are offending Krishna. Because when we give the people the holy names, generally people chant the holy names with us, right? You do a program, you're introducing people to the holy name, you teach them how to chant around or to chant with you. We want everybody, the non-believers, we want them to chant the holy names. By the association, Prabhupada says, by the association of the devotees, people can be, even though one's in Gita, it says there's namam duskritino mudha, there's 4 that don't surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada said, we preach to them also and convince them to become devotees. Not all of them are going to become the stone-hearted atheists and the scientists, the atheistic scientists. They won't become, but other people who are on the fence or agnostic or whatever, we have to take a chance to see who's who so we can preach to them. As far as the long-term effect of prasadam, Prabhupada said that prasadam will give people spiritual intelligence. The more they eat prasadam, the more they'll become purified by the holy names and prasadam so that they can become devotees. And personally, we've seen in Kalachandjis over the years that happens. People will eat and eat and eat, and pretty soon they'll say, hey, what is this Krishna consciousness all about? and they'll want to know, and they'll take one of Prabhupada's books and they'll read it. So on a personal level, serving prasadam has a tremendous effect. First of all, it frees everybody from karma. According to Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, if we eat prasadam, we get purified. And so it's one of, Prabhupada said, like, it's one of Krishna's secret weapons, like he called gulab jamans ISKCON bullets,
Yeah.
you know. And when we were in the restaurant preaching to different college groups and different people that would come in, one of the professors, who was a good friend of mine, who used to bring his classes all the time, his humanities classes, I can't think of his name all of a sudden. It'll come to me here in a minute. White-haired, really tall, a really funny Texan guy. I forget his name. Anyway, he used to have his students write a reaction paper as part of their grade after they came to the temple. And I used to ask him for those papers so I could see how my preaching went, to see if they heard anything, you know, see if I was effective. So one time he gave me the papers, and the first one I read was these 3 kids that they bought prasadam in the hallway. Bhakti Devi used to make pizzas. They bought pizza and they had to drive from here to like Sherman, Texas or Oklahoma or somewhere. And then the reaction paper, they said when they got in the car and ate the pizza, they were intoxicated fully for 3 hours as they were driving to their destination. So when people eat prasadam and they have that experience where they feel, they can't forget that. So it's a samskara. It's one of those things where Krishna allows somebody to eat prasadam, and he also allows them to have a wonderful experience so that that thing can actually be one of the things they remember, even at the time of death. If they remember coming and eating prasadam, they'll get in a more elevated birth, you know, right? So that's my opinion. My opinion is that prasadam is liberating, it's purifying and liberating. And Prabhupada said, all of us came to Krishna consciousness because of prasadam. Prabhupada kind of, you know, made it clear that we had to have really good prasadam, and that was the reason, if not the reason why we came, one of the reasons why we stay in Krishna consciousness, because of the wonderful prasadam. So, you know, shastrically, it's purifying for people to eat prasadam. There's no question. It frees them from their sins and it gives them spiritual intelligence. I can go on too long. I'm one of those guys that talks too much, so I can't say too much.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. He put actually a heart next to his name to say that he loved your answer. Very good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I loved your answer. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful question.
Oh, you're welcome, Prabhu.
Because Prabhupada, you know, told us, Lord Chaitanya gave the order, and Prabhupada emphasized that whoever we meet, we should tell them about Krishna. So one of those ways we can tell them about Krishna is by giving them prasadam, like in our office or whatever. And people will understand that they've eaten something very special. And they'll have such an amazing, you know what I mean? We've all seen that. How when we push ourselves to preach to people and give them prasadam and tell them about Krishna, how they have such a wonderful experience. We just had a Rath Yatra in El Paso on October the 8th. We distributed over 5,000 plates of prasadam, and we distributed around 4,000 gulab jamans. I wanted to bring Prabhupada's mercy back, not back, but bring it to El Paso in the form of gulab jamans, because we used to always have gulab jamans. Anyway, so we were interviewing people who were eating the food, the prasadam, just asking them how, you know, everything. And so everybody was so intoxicated just by eating the prasadam. And then there's a nice festival. So the combination of prasadam and hearing about Krishna is a very, very powerful combination.
And Prabhu, if I may say, the principle related to the principle that Lord Krishna is all attractive, one of the proofs that show that Krishna is really all attractive is the fact that he manifests himself to the conditioned living entities in the form of delicious prasadam. So again, thank you very much for your wonderful answer to my question, and congratulations on the 5th anniversary. Hare Krishna.
Hare
It's the 50th anniversary of the temple and the 40th anniversary of Kalachandji's.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare. So basically, we had originally targeted this program to go till for 90 minutes. We're now almost at 120 minutes. So thank you everybody who stayed on. I understand, we've said that we'll run these programs 1.5 hours, but we go over sometimes. And thank you for being very patient. And thank you again, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, the wonderful comments you made. This is going to be recorded for posterity. I think people in the future will really be very impressed to know how hard the devotees worked to actually set up this movement and set up the all the different yatras around the world, Dallas being one of them, and who are the devotees, and put a face to it, the voice, the happiness, very, very encouraging. Thank you so very much, Prabhu. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry I was late in the car.
No, you're fine. You're fine. There's nothing wrong. We were going to bring you on before Mother Kamalini spoke, but because they had gone through jet lag, we thought let her speak first, and then that way they take some rest. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And we'll, Mother Shavia, do we have a fixed date for the next program, or we'll just announce it when you're ready?
Maybe on the 4th, Prabhu, as you said, we will try to get the temple construction devotees to speak on the 4th, if they are available.
On the 4th of
December.
In
Yeah.
the evening or morning?
Morning, Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, 8:30 our time, 8:30 Dallas time.
Yes.
Just letting everybody know that's probably going to be the next one. We can get the construction crew, the crew that helped do the construction work at the early days of the temple to come on restaurant and thank you all so very much.
Get a hold of them for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhishya kripasindhubhyo
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Radha Kalachandji ki jai.
Jai.
Hari ki jai. Shri Gaur
Jai.
Jai. Jai Gaur.
Hari Hari Bol.